This is an overview of the ubiquitous injury, the shoulder dislocation. First, we should familiarize ourselves with the anatomy of the bones, muscles, and ligaments that are involved in the injury. We will start with the bones. The bones that are involved are the humerus, a long bone proximal to the shoulder joint, the clavicle, a long bone that lies horizontal and is commonly referred to as the collarbone, the scapula, a large bone on the back that connects the humerus with the clavicle, also known as the shoulder blade, the acromion, a leg of the scapula which extends laterally and hooks over anteriorly, the coracoid, a leg of the scapula which extends laterally and points anteriorly, then hooks lateral and slightly inferior. Now for the muscles and ligaments that are involved in the injury. The subscapularis is a large triangular muscle, and actions are to internally rotate and adduct the humerus. The supraspinatus is a small muscle of the upper back, and actions are to abduct and stabilize the humerus in the glenoid cavity, or known as the shoulder socket. The infraspinatus is a thick, large triangular muscle, and actions are to externally rotate, adduct, and stabilize the shoulder joint. The long head of the bicep is a tendon that travels through the shoulder to the origin of the glenoid. The transverse humeral ligament is a ligament that attaches from either side of the long bicep tendon to essentially hold it within place. Since the cause of the shoulder dislocation is an extreme force exerted on the shoulder dislocation can happen from about anything. Since such magnitude of force is rarely exerted on your shoulder, these are a few common causes for creating this blow to your shoulder. First being falls, for example, falling off a ladder. Most sports have a lot of shoulder injuries coming from the contact sports and sports that involve a lot of falling. Also, an electric shock of seizures can sometimes be enough to cause a shoulder dislocation. And last, car accidents, shoulder dislocation is extremely common. Now there are types of shoulder dislocations. The most common one, with about 95% of all shoulder dislocations, being the anterior dislocation. This is when the humeral head is out of the glenoid cavity anteriorly. Posterior dislocation is usually associated with seizures or electric shock, and this is when the humeral head is out of the glenoid cavity posteriorly. Partial dislocation, the humeral head is slightly out of the glenoid cavity. You can see that in this diagram, anterior dislocation and posterior dislocation. And this diagram here, you can see partial dislocation. There are also many complications that could potentially come with the initial injury. Labrum tears are very common and occurs when the cartilage on the outer rim of the glenoid, also known as the labrum, tears. This tearing can be seen here in figure 1. A greater tuberosity fracture is a large fracture that breaks the humeral head or is attached to the muscles of the rotator cuff. The fracture can either be undisplaced or displaced, and this can be seen here in figure 2. Other fractures of the humeral head can occur, such as simple, compound, or comminuted. To recover from a shoulder dislocation, your first step is the humeral head being placed back into the glenoid cavity by a medical professional. And this is referred to as close reduction. Step 2 would be to immobilize the shoulder in a sling or another device for several weeks following the close reduction and icing consistently. Step 3 would be after the pain and swelling go down, a medical professional prescribe rehabilitation exercises. This is estimated to be about 4 weeks to perform daily tasks and several months before training or other athletic activities. Physiotherapy exercises for recovery. After a dislocation, the first step in rehabilitation is the pendulum exercise. This is an exercise that's very good for the early stage of shoulder mobility. The exercise is performed by slowly swinging your arms backwards and sideways while leaning forward and gradually increasing the range of motion. Once the shoulder has started to heal, the next step would be to move to assisted shoulder mobility exercises. This involves using your good arm or pole to assist the injured arm. Since the joint would be still healing, isometric exercises would work to strengthen the muscle without potentially damaging the joint. These can also be used in all planes to maximize the strength and progress. Thank you for listening.